Have you ever smiled in front of people while feeling completely different inside? Have you ever wanted to say something, but stayed silent because you thought nobody would understand? The truth is, people hide more than they show. Behind confidence, behind jokes, behind success, there are thoughts almost everyone has, but almost nobody says out loud. And psychology shows something fascinating. The things people hide the most often control their behavior the most. So in this video, we're uncovering the hidden psychology behind the things people never say out loud. The silent fears, invisible struggles, and secret emotions shaping everyday life. Because sometimes, the loudest parts of human psychology are completely silent. 1. I want people to notice me. Here's something people rarely admit. Most people want attention, not because they're selfish, because humans are wired for connection. Psychologists have found that feeling invisible can trigger emotional pain similar to physical pain. That's why people post things hoping someone reacts. Why they check messages repeatedly. Why compliments stay in memory for years. Many people pretend they don't care what others think. But secretly, almost everyone wants to feel seen. The hidden truth. Sometimes people aren't seeking attention. They're seeking proof that they matter. 2. I'm more insecure than I look. Confidence is often misunderstood, because confidence doesn't always look confident. The loudest person in the room, sometimes deeply insecure. The perfectionist, often terrified of failure. The person constantly joking, sometimes hiding pain. Psychology calls this compensation behavior. People often overdevelop one trait to protect another hidden weakness. And here's the strange part. The more someone hides insecurity, the harder it becomes to ask for help. Because maintaining an image becomes exhausting. So remember, people rarely show their deepest fears. They perform around them. 3. I'm afraid I'm falling behind. Social comparison quietly controls modern life. People compare careers, money, relationships, looks, followers, achievements, and most never admit how much it affects them. Someone gets promoted, and suddenly your success feels smaller. Someone gets married, and now you question your timeline. Someone buys a house, and now your life feels late. Psychology explains this through relative comparison. Humans often judge happiness not by what they have, but by what others have, which means many people aren't actually unhappy. They're comparing. 4. I feel lonely, even around people. This is one of the most hidden emotions, loneliness, because loneliness isn't always being alone. Sometimes it's feeling misunderstood. You can sit in a crowded room and still feel disconnected. Many people stay busy, not because they love being busy, but because silence forces emotions to appear. The scary thing about loneliness is, people often become experts at hiding it. They laugh, work harder, stay online, keep conversations shallow, while quietly feeling disconnected inside. 5. I'm tired of pretending I'm okay. People don't always hide emotions because they want to. Sometimes they hide them because they learned to. Maybe growing up, being emotional wasn't safe. Maybe vulnerability got ignored. Maybe strength became survival. So people learn phrases like, I'm fine, I'm good, don't worry, even when none of it is true. Psychology suggests emotional suppression doesn't erase emotions, it delays them, and delayed emotions often return stronger. Sometimes the strongest looking people are simply the most practiced at hiding pain. 6. I want approval. More than humans are social creatures, which means approval feels rewarding. Literally, our brains are wired to respond to acceptance. Positive social feedback activates reward systems in the brain. That's why compliments feel good, why likes and messages feel satisfying, and why criticism can stay in your head for days. Rejection doesn't just hurt emotionally. To the brain, it can feel like a threat. That's why one negative comment often outweighs 10 positive ones. You could receive support from hundreds of people, and still obsess over the one person who disapproved. Most people want independence, but secretly, almost everyone wants validation too. Because validation feels like safety, it feels like belonging, and for many people, being accepted becomes connected to feeling valuable. This is where the hidden psychology becomes dangerous. The problem starts when self-worth becomes outsourced. Because then, your confidence stops belonging to you. Your mood changes depending on reactions. Your decisions depend on approval. Your happiness depends on attention. And slowly, you stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What will people think?" Psychologists call this external validation dependence. And the more your identity depends on outside approval, the more emotionally unstable life feels. Because public opinion changes constantly. And if your worth depends on it, peace becomes temporary. 7. I'm scared people will see the real me. Many people fear judgment, but deeper than that, many fear exposure. Not exposure of their face, not exposure of their life, exposure of who they really are. Because almost everyone has parts of themselves they keep hidden, the insecurities, the overthinking, the mistakes they still replay at night, the fears they hope nobody notices. And somewhere inside, a quiet question appears. What if people knew the real me? What if they saw my flaws, my anxiety, my failures, my regrets? Psychology calls this self-discrepancy. The gap between who you are and who you think you should be, or worse, the gap between who you are and who you think others expect you to become. The larger this gap becomes, the more exhausting life feels. Because pretending takes effort. You monitor your words, hide emotions, act stronger, act happier, act more successful, until eventually, you forget what feels natural. Many people don't struggle because they're weak. They struggle because they're performing all the time. And performance creates pressure. That's why authenticity feels powerful. Not because being yourself is easy. Because it removes the constant work of pretending. Because pretending requires energy. Being real requires courage. And maybe true confidence isn't becoming perfect. Maybe it's reaching a point where being seen no longer feels terrifying. Because the version of you hiding from judgment may be the version people would understand the most. So what's the hidden psychology behind things people never say out loud? Maybe it's this. Most people are fighting invisible battles. Most people want connection. Most people feel insecure sometimes. Most people fear rejection. And most people are carrying thoughts they never share, which means the stranger you walk past today, the friend who said, "I'm okay," even the person who looks strongest, could be carrying something silent. So maybe kindness matters more than we realize. And maybe understanding people starts with remembering this. What people hide often explains them more than what they show. If this video made you think differently, like this video and subscribe for more psychology content. And comment below. What's one thing people rarely say out loud, but almost everyone feels? Because sometimes, the quietest truths are the most human.